everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave. It's Jem here and today I have Colin Thompson's colouring book and I wanted to show you a really quick and easy technique for doing a wood finish, especially working in smaller areas like these bookcases. And I've been working away on the first page of this and you can see I've got quite a lot of it done. So I thought you might like to see how I am finishing off my bookshelf. Now you can do this with any three colours at all. I'm using polychromos pencils. The paper in these books are quite toothy, so a harder pencil is good, so Crayolas would be good too. But you see, you can use any three colours, it will work. It's more about technique than the actual colours that you're using. So I have plumped for dark cadmium yellow. I also have brown ochre. And lastly, I have Zest-it as well. So those are the three pencils I'm going to be working with. So what I thought we could do is we could do some of the woodwork roundabout just to show you that technique and how it's done. We'll see how we're doing for time because I only have this tiny little square left to finish and the entire double page will be done. If I don't get it all finished within the hour, I will go away and finish it and I'll add it in at the end of the video just so that you can see it complete, because let me tell you, this is a page like this with this much detail, it's a bit of a mission. Anyway, let's get zoomed in and I'll show you how to do this nice sort of pine effect. So I'm going to start with this sort of thicker part down here because that will let you see the detail of it a bit more, and you can see that there's actually a wood grain drawn in. So it is really straightforward, and it's one of those ones, the more you do it, the better you get at it and the better it looks. So I'm first of all taking my yellow pencil, which is my dark cadmium, and I'm just going to slap down a really light layer of that, just enough to sort of tint the paper, and I'm going to do that all the way down this particular plank of wood. Make sure I don't colour over our little number 42 note that's here. So with this, you don't have to have an even coverage. It kind of looks better and a bit more natural if you have some parts that are a bit patchy. It just kind of adds to that wood effect, so be as haphazard as you like. Next we're going to take the brown ochre. And you want quite a sharp point on your pencil for this, because what we're going to do is start to follow the actual wood grain that's been drawn in. So you're not going to draw a heavy line, you're just going to use a light pencil and you're just very roughly going to sort of scribble over the wood grain lines that are there, but going in the opposite direction. Now what I mean by that is, I'm just going to show you on a scrap of paper here. If this was the wood grain line here, I'm going to go across it like this, back and forth, and that's what I'm doing here. It is quite a tight space, but it works well. So you want to do that because what we're doing is we're just kind of softening up the area around where the actual line of the grain is, and I'm going to do that all the way along. And again, you don't have to be careful about it, you just don't have to, and you can change direction and go with the flow of the wood grain as well if you like. And then down in this bottom part here, you can see that's quite dark in there, so I'm going to start just putting some flicks underneath there and then just finish it down following the lines that Colin Thompson has left on the page. Right, the next thing we want to do is take this Zest-it. Now this has to be super sharp because we are going to follow the wood grain lines, so I'm going to zoom in just a little bit further now and pressing quite heavily. Oh, not so heavily that your pencil core starts to snap. And using a sort of feathering motion, I'm just going to follow all of those wood grain lines. And some parts I'm making it thicker and thinner than others, and some parts I'm leaving it out altogether, you know, kind of like a broken line. And you can see that starting to pop out now already. So just go over them, but make sure that you are pressing so that it's actually making some sort of impression on the paper. And I'm going to use this for shading in here, down in this part here. So the same motion that I did with the lighter coloured pencil, just build up that under there and then follow my... And sometimes when I get to the end of a piece of wood, I like to sort of flick some of that, you know, along the end as well. So what you've got there is a sort of patchy brown streaky piece of wood. So we want to go back to your yellow now and just really touch up any areas that you feel are too bare and sort of blend it in with that mid-tone brown just to sort of soften those lines up. And just do it by eye. It's up to you to decide what bits need filling in and what bits don't. I wouldn't like to have big white patches, but the likes of this part there, I'm quite happy leaving that. And then just bringing in my yellow. Now obviously the harder you press at this point, the more yellow your wood is going to look. So that's important for you to decide what sort of colour you're wanting in that as well. And there we go. Now the next step, and you will have seen me do this before, in this marker, this was a blank Copic marker, there was nothing in it, it's just the case. And I have some pencil blending medium in here. Now you don't have to have it in a marker. I got this idea from Erin Jarboe from Simple Art for Adults. I will link that video in the description as I always do. You can just do this with normal pencil blender and a blending stump, or whichever way you use your pencil blending medium. And it has the same effect. Now really what this is doing, aside from the fact this is really toothy paper, and you can see this is an area here where I haven't used any pencil blender, so it is quite grainy. Now while you think that might be good for wood, we need to sort of smooth some of these colours together, and I am literally just going to start at the top and work in a sort of little circular motion over the top of what I've done. And I'm just going to smooth that out and soften it out a little bit. Now while that's drying, you can just move on to your next area because we are going to go back to it. So let's pop up here and see what we've got going on up here. So here we go, we've got a little staircase here. Let's do some work on that. So yellow first, light layer. Just cover it up as much as you want. And then use your mid-tone brown and roughly follow the wood grain and just sort of pop in some lines over the top of that. So you're deliberately going outside the line, as it were. You're not following it exactly. And then you're going to take your bistre or your darkest brown and you're going to press down a little bit harder, and you're going to follow those wood grain lines again, and then you're just going to top up your yellow in between anywhere that you want to add a little bit more. Or if you want to make it deeper, like down the back of the staircase, you could have that much darker yellow. I've got a little bit of a bold patch in there as well. And then out with your pencil blending medium, whichever that may be. If you're in a different colouring book, you know, you're using different paper, you may not have to do this. You may be able to blend the colours out without having to use a pencil blending medium of any description. So I'm just going to carry on with these stairs down here, and I'll just do these little bits as well. So in with my brown ochre. And I'm going to tuck a little bit in there, just in beside the stairs, make them pop out a little bit more. And then with the bistre, this is obviously a shadow under here because Colin has left us lines to tell us that. Following some of that wood grain. And then in this little corner again, I'm just going to pop that in there. So you can see how much that makes that part of the staircase just like pop out. And then I might go back in with, I don't really want this to be too yellow. I want this to be more brown than yellow. Look at this little part under here as well. There we go. And then I can go over that. In this page, I've tended to work in squares, just, you know, go through it methodically. That just seems to be less painful. Okay, so we've got another long sort of thicker piece of wood here, so I'm going to do that. Get that down. Now, the more you do this, the better idea you'll get of how you want your, you know, your actual wood grain to look in terms of the colour balance in it, you know, how much yellow, how much of your mid-tone brown, how hard to press. And that will also depend on the paper that you're doing it on, whether or not you need to press harder in some places than others. but it doesn't take long, and I just find it's really quick and easy, and it's quite effective. There will be areas where if you maybe want to put in your own wood grain as well, this is a great way to do it, and you don't have to worry too much about, you know, making it look right, because it will look right. What I find is when you do put odourless mineral spirit or any sort of pencil blender, the yellow really pops out, so I tend to go for a less is more approach, because the good thing about it is once it's dry you can always add more if you feel it's too pale or too washed out. So that is one of the many benefits of using pencil blending medium, and that's come out perfectly. I'm quite happy with that. Now that this has started to dry, you can see my long skinny bit. I'm actually quite happy with that, and I don't want to add anything to that either. So let's just move on, and I'll do this long part down this side now as well. Now it's the same as with anything else when you're colouring. If you've got a set combination or a set technique, once you kind of get going, you know, you get into a rhythm and it becomes easier and faster, and you become more accurate at it every time that you do it. So the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. It seems quite fiddly at first, and I can see people thinking to themselves, oh, I really can't be bothered with this. You know, this is too much hassle. And I was like that until I figured out how I was doing it and what I was doing. I was quite slow at it, but once I got the sort of idea behind what I wanted to achieve, then I got quicker and quicker. And obviously I had plenty of wood to practice on in this particular page. So there we are. I'm just getting my wood grain in, and I'm going to put those little flicks in at the end that I talked about. And grab my bistro now. I find things like, you know, this, you know, techniques like this quite liberating, because there's no real right or wrong way to do it. It's just a case of, you know, try it and see what tickles your fancy, and I think that's why I like it so much. There's no wrong there's no right or wrong way to do it. You just go for it. Do what makes you happy. Do what you feel. Oh, here we go. This random leg sticking out here, that's quite funny. Made me laugh. This entire page made me laugh, actually. I really like Colin's sense of humour. It's a very proper, what I would say, a proper Englishman, you know, like gentlemanly sense of humour. It's very punny, but in a clean way. Don't get much of that around here. I can do this part up here now. I'm going to do this part along the top, and then that is that top shelf done. There isn't a lot of wood grain on this top part, so I'm going to show you something else here as well. So if I wanted that more kind of in keeping, I'm sorry, I keep moving this book about. I could just shade areas of this, and you can see that, you know, the wood grain's got quite a sort of regular pattern to it on this top part, and I'm just not up for that at all. So I am going to take this line here in the middle, and I'm just going to do what I was doing before, but then I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to pull up some of this brown, this mid-tone brown, all the way up. Can you see what I'm doing there? And then I might pick up this line here, and then over this other side, I'm going to have to zoom out a bit, guys, because moving this about is making me feel sick, let alone you. And I'll maybe take this part down here where there's some shading, you know, where there's some shadow, and I'm just going to bring that all the way across. And that just makes it a little bit more interesting, because it ends up looking like a bit like a kind of like striped candy cane, but I can still take my bistro and follow the original lines that have been put in for the wood grain. It's not going to look out of place. As long as you vary your pressure and your line width, and make sure you kind of like blend some of the areas out, then that's going to look absolutely a-okay. And with this one here, there was actually some shading on it, so you've got to kind of think about things like that as well. So where the grey sort of shaded areas are, I'm just going to rub that all the way over there and put a couple of layers down, and then follow the rest of the lines with the mid-tone brown. And then I can pop in with my Bistra and just add some in if I want. And again, using it a bit more on the area that's already been shaded, because you don't want everything looking really uniform. That's not what we're after at all. Right. The cap on this marker is really, really stiff, and I've got to could pull at it to get it off. When you are working with odorless mineral spirit, it is an idea to start in your lighter areas if you don't want the dark colours to taint them, you know, because if you start in the dark area and you work down the way, you're going to pull some of that brown into the paler areas. So that's something to bear in mind. It's actually something that I do quite regularly on purpose, you know, is start with the darker area, and it's just to darken down whatever it is I'm doing. That is a deliberate habit of mine, and I quite like it, so. Right, let's pop back over here. Let's say we've decided, this is starting to dry now. Let's say we decide that's far too pale, I don't like it. I would go back in with my mid-tone and I would just fill in and thicken up some of these brown areas, you know, like fatten them out so that they become more prominent and so that they come closer together. And if you do it while the mineral spirit is still a little bit damp, it spreads out really easily and it gives you a really soft look. And there you are, it's shown up really well there. So you can do that as well. It's something that's an option for you as well. You know, nothing's permanent when you've sat it down. And then you can just go back in with your darker brown. I did try a darker brown than this and it looked a little bit, what's the phrase I would use? I would say artificial. And that's why I've gone for this sort of, well, I suppose it's a mid-tone brown as well. But yeah, I think I might actually be able to get all these finished if I motor on here. And then I can focus on my little square down in the bottom here. I'm overjoyed to have gotten this far. I've been sort of dipping in and out of this, and I have been doing it a square at a time. And it sounds ridiculous when I say this is the book that I use when I don't have much time to colour. Everybody's like, what? But it's because I'm just, you know, I'm treating a square as a page, if you like. And if I've only got maybe a half hour to colour or something, this is where I come to and just try and do like one of my squares or add a bit to one of my squares. And I started this picture months ago, but it's been excellent fun because I haven't gotten sick of it. You know, I think if you were to try and do huge chunks of this, I think you would find it quite wearing just because there is so much detail. I mean, it's every time you look at this picture, you find something else. And I am pretty sure that I'll have missed things. You know, there are things that I will not have coloured just because I've missed them. I have missed our little monster that's over here. I didn't realise he had a tail. I'm just going to show you this if I bring this over here. This little guy here, whatever, I think I called him like a gruffalump or something. He actually has a tail. Didn't colour it, didn't realise that's what it was. So I shall have to remedy that. I haven't forgotten about him, but I shall have to remedy that. But I can't even begin to imagine how long it took Colin Thompson to draw these pictures. They are absolutely insane. Absolutely bananas. Let's put some flicks in at the bottom here as well. And I think I want a little bit more yellow in some of these areas. Stick some in there. You know me, guys, I'm all about the simple ways of colouring. It's something for me that I can do when my hand is shaky and I don't have to worry too much about precision. And I think that's where a lot of my sort of simpler ideas and techniques have come from. It's probably from days where my hand isn't so great and I've decided to colour instead of draw or paint. Although I have to say, painting is pretty, it's pretty forgiving, you know. So yeah, it's all good. Okay, what have we got here? Let's do this little bit. Now we've got another set of stairs. There's so many sets of stairs here. So I'll just pop my yellow down first. This is my favourite carrot because it looks as if it's sitting down. It's just having a wee rest. Pop some of this in here. And then I can go in with this. I'm going to need to give this a little bit of a sharpen. Yeah, so I'm really excited to finish this page. At least I can say I've finished one page in this book. It may never happen again. I will talk about the next page, you know, when I get towards the end of the video, because I have been thinking about it already. I'm not even finished this one yet and I'm already planning out the next page. Here we go. And then I've got my bistro here. Just pop some of that down. If you do have a bigger space, you know, if it was a lot wider, you could take some time and blend the bistro and the brown ochre together, you know, rather than just sort of whacking them down on top of each other. And again, if you don't have particularly toothy paper, you could do that anyway. Because I'm working in quite a confined space here, you know, all the pieces are quite thin, it's just easier to do it this way. And it's relatively quick as well. You can get through a fair chunk of what you're doing in a reasonably short space of time. Which again, when you've got as much of this to do, then that might be advantageous if you don't have an eternity to sit and colour. I was actually going to sit down and try and estimate how long it would take to finish this colouring book if you were to colour it cover to cover. And you know, based on how long it's taken me to do this double page, and I lost track of the number of hours I've spent on this, so yeah, I don't know, but it kind of like boggled my mind a little bit, because I imagine it's going to be quite a lot. I want to jump down here. You can see there's like a funny little hatch here. There's places in the drawing where there's lots of breaks in the bookshelf. There's another sort of hatch type one over here. And what I've done there is I've just used the two darkest colours. So I've taken my brown ochre and I filled that in first, and it just gives you a bit of dimension to what you're doing as well and makes it stand out from the rest of the bookcase if I don't chuck my pencils about. So I've put down the brown ochre and then I've got the bistro, and I'm just using that in at the sides because this is supposed to be curved, so making it darker in at those far left and right hand sides on each of these little sections. And there you go, that's as simple as it is. And there's a little bit down here as well, so I'm going to do the same down here because we've got this random staircase. So there's the brown ochre, I'll put that down. And again, the hatching's there for you to show you where the darker part should be, because that is obviously the shadow. And we'll just pop some of this down. Heavy at the top, lighten up the pressure as we get towards the bottom, and then just top it up with a wee bit of that brown ochre and you can blend that in together. There you go. I'm just looking to see if there's any more gaps, but that's us. Pretty good. Okay, so let's carry on then. Get some yellow down here. We've got a little ledge here as well. There's all these little sort of fiddly inny outy bits. So yeah, I think you have to have a really, really good imagination to do something like this, you know, to think all this up. I am impressed. I really am. But the minute I saw this colouring book, I was in love. It was almost the same as when I first saw Kirby Roseanne's colouring books. I was just like, I'm in love, I have to have that. And that, truthfully, doesn't happen to me very often with colouring books. I'm trying to think of any other times it's happened. The only other time I can really remember it impacted me, because I was so impressed with the artwork, was the first time I saw Bennett Klein's artwork as well. I was like, I have to have one of his books. This is amazing. And there's lots of books that I've been impressed with and I've really liked the contents, but not enough to make me go, I need to buy that right now. Whereas with this book, I was like, yep, that's it, having it, don't care how much it is. But I've always said that I am a person that tends to buy colouring books because I like the artwork in them, not because I like to colour those specific subjects. I tend to pick out books because I appreciate the mastery of the drawing that's gone into it. I'm not very happy with my bistro parts, this one, brown ochre, there we go. It's just disappeared behind the bistro, so I'm just going to work out and sort of bring out some of those brown areas, just so it doesn't look as if I've just drawn lines on it. You know, it's a bit, softens it up a little bit, that's what I was trying to say. Have you not noticed I've got really roundabout ways of saying things sometimes? I think it's because I'm doing and talking at the same time, I'm not sure. I did actually, somebody left me a comment, and I don't know whether she's watching or not, and I'm not going to name her. Somebody left me a comment on a video saying, why do you talk so much in your videos? Which, by the way, I thought was hilarious. Like, I find that really, really funny. And my answer to that was, well, why not? So there you go. I have found someone that thinks, well, I'm assuming, I mean, that is just an assumption that I am making, but I am assuming she thinks that I talk too much in my videos. But how can I teach people things if I don't talk? You know, I'm here to help. I keep saying it. If I make the mistakes, then you guys don't have to. So in order to do that, I need to explain that I've made a mistake. And sometimes mistakes are glaringly obvious, granted, but yeah, I just thought that was quite strange, but I'm not offended by that in any shape or form. I found it quite funny, but that's it's kind of what my parents used to say to me. In fact, all my family members used to say to me, like, do you have to talk so much? I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. Can't help it. It's just me. Just being myself. Okay, down here a little bit now. Oh, this is exciting. We're nearly there. Right, let's get this yellow whacked down. Woo, let's go. Go to the other side of my hatch. And the wee lid of the hatch as well there. It's going to kind of blend into the pumpkin. So what I'll do there is I'll use a little bit more brown. Sorry, apologies for the jaunty angle. I'm really hyperactive today. I don't know what's wrong with me. Right, so let's plonk plenty of brown in here. There we go. I just want it to, I don't want it to kind of blend into that pumpkin, which is exactly what's happening just now. So we do not want that. I just made the assumption that that was a pumpkin. I suppose I could have made it into anything really. I could have made it into, I don't know, something else that's kind of shaped like a pumpkin. There we go. That's just helped to define that edge a little bit. And I just pressed quite hard with my bistro there. Okay, let's rock and roll with our brown ochre again. Again, this seems to be a sort of darker part because he has left quite a lot of shading. So I'm going to be a bit more liberal with my browns than I have been in other sections. Just scribble it on, honestly, just scribble it on. And then I can work away with my darker brown. That was maybe a bit too much there. Got a bit overexcited there. Try and get the lid off this again. Ugh. How's that looking? Oh, I've only got this one square to go and one staircase. Oh my goodness, I never thought I'd get here. There we are. So again, I didn't really think this through either. I shouldn't really have made that book yellow because that's going to kind of, it's going to kind of compromise what's going on here. So I will again make these sections more brown than yellow. Our little mousy friend here. I'm trying to figure out if this belongs to him. You know, he's like, that's the bottom half of his body, but that looks like front legs to me, but then he's no back legs. So I don't know, it's maybe just mouse meeting mouse. That's one for you to ponder. Tell me what you think in the comments. I think it's too mice. I don't think someone has chopped him in half. Because it's too far forward to be his back leg, surely. I don't know. So there we go, just by putting in this shadow underneath the stairs here and continuing that brown down a little bit, that's given me a, you know, contrast between the yellow book and the actual wood. So it's not going to look out of place because obviously we're going to make sure that everything's all smooshed together with our blending pen. But it just like helps it to stand out a little bit more from the book. And I'm going to do the same with this. I'm going to use a bit more of the mid-tone brown as I come past the book, you know, as the staircase comes over the front of it. And that's just going to help to, so they don't sort of melt into each other. There Here we go. Yeah, that'll look all right. And just pull this down here. There we go. No problem. I forgot about this little bit down here. We'll get it in a minute. I just wanted to do this section before I start using my blending pen, because this all kind of joins together, this part. Again, the wood grain runs quite parallel along here, so I'm not going to be as precious, perhaps, because I don't want it looking like, you know, very uniform. Anybody that's watching in the UK, see when I'm doing these wood sections, it reminds me of a Yum Yum. I don't know if anybody else anywhere in the world has a Yum Yum or knows what a Yum Yum is. It's basically, you will have Yum Yums, but what I mean is I don't know if, like, I don't have a name for it. It's basically like a big twist of sweet, almost like a batter that's baked and then it's dipped in like glazed sugar. And I mean, they're absolutely full of calories, like they really, really are, but they're awesome. And that's what these remind me of, because when they come out, you know, and they're sort of slightly twisted, like you make it into like a long thin shape and then you twist it slightly and then you bake it, and it all sort of goes all, oh yeah, anyway. Yeah, but that's what they look like when they're sitting and they're all ready to go. It's funny how a lot of the time I end up turning the conversation round to food. I've noticed I do it quite a lot. It made me laugh though, because if you remember, we had a Q&A session during the festive period for those of you that have been here this long, and I asked everyone to give me, you know, it was a sort of ask me anything type thing, and I was absolutely astounded at the number of people that asked me questions about food, and I just thought that was really funny. So it's obviously not just me. I was quite happy to answer questions about food. Lots of farm questions as well. There were lots of farm questions. I think that's something I might do again this year. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It made me giggle. Put a bit more yellow in this part. Here we go. These steps, I think these steps go down to this part here because there is a little bit of wood hiding in behind here. Otherwise those steps just go to nowhere. But this is really quite dark in here, so again I'm going to plump for more sort of brown than yellow just to try and keep in with the... I don't even think I'll blend that out in behind there as well. I think I'll just leave it because that's a pretty tight space and it's looking quite sort of muddy in there already. Let's not ruin a good thing. And our last piece down here, oh, this is so exciting. I was hoping to have the wood area done in half an hour and I'm just over that, so I'm also quite impressed with that as well. If anybody else has bought this book, I would love to see any of your finished pictures if you want to share them on Facebook or tag me on Instagram or anything like that. I would absolutely love to see them, or you can DM me them. That would be great too, because I just find this book absolutely fascinating. If you are watching this and you haven't seen this book before, I do have a flip through on it and I will link that also in the description, and I'll pop it in the end card and you can see some of the other images in the book. I did do it once before because lots of people had asked about it. So I'll just stick a link in there for you if you're curious. The one thing I will say is that if you don't like toothy paper, you're going to struggle with this book because the paper is very, very toothy. But I don't mind toothy paper at all. That's what Odorless Mineral Spirit's for. So I'm going to make this quite dark underneath our mousy friend here. Get plenty of bistre in under there too. Oh, there we go. And then maybe a wee bit there. And there we have it. The wood area is now finished. Very exciting. Oh, I'm excited. Righty-ho. I am just going to zoom in a little bit and we can focus on this one square now that we don't have to move about everywhere, which is great. There we go. So as you see, I have done a little bit already. Oh, my hand looks big. So the place I'm going to start is, I have a few touches of things that I want to do, and when I'm doing these little squares, I have noticed that subconsciously what I've been doing is I've been colouring in a few things, so like my tree for example here, and I've been keeping the colours to the side and then reusing them within the rest of the square. I've done it up here. I started with the sky because I knew what colour I wanted the sky, so I kept the pink and the orange, and obviously there's the pink there and here's the orange here, so, and it just, I think it just helps to sort of keep each little section together. But there are sections where I haven't followed any sort of colour scheme at all. So I've got the colours that I've been using in here sitting beside me. But see, there's a few things that I just wanted to do that I know what colour that I want them to be. The first thing I want to do is pop a, well, I haven't done the door yet, I'm not going to colour the door in, is pop a really light layer of this blue over here, because this is supposed to be a screen of some description. One of these old-fashioned computer monitors. So I just wanted a quick layer of that. And then I wanted to take my ivory colour. I'm sure some of you will be old enough to remember these old PCs, and they were always that sort of horrible off-white cream or slightly grey plastic colour, and they sort of yellowed with age. So that's the kind of feel I want to go for here. So I'm going to get a layer of this ivory down first, because that would have been their original colour. The old relics. And I remember being super excited about Windows 3.1 because that was my first experience of paint, and my dad used to let me sit and draw things on paint when I was a nipper. That wasn't yesterday. And Windows 3.1 was the beans, by the way. If you had a PC, and more to the point, if you had a PC that had Windows 3.1, you were the talk of the town. This one's got now this must have been a slightly more modern one, because that is clearly a CD-ROM drive. The original ones did not have CD-ROM drives. And then when they brought those out, we started getting Encarta, which is, it was like an encyclopedia that came on a CD, and there was kind of interactive things you could do with that as well, and I loved Encarta. Oh, getting all nostalgic now. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a very pale grey. Let's see, what have we got here? Cold grey 2. I've got a wee scrap of paper here, so I'll just give that a wee I was going to say a shugle, I'm not really shuggling it. There, yeah, that's good. And there's just some sections here that I want to go over. And again, it's so my little mousy friend's going to stand out. So I'll do this part and this part. And the ye olde CD-ROM. I was in my my loft space the other day, and I actually found a whole case of CDs that used to belong in my car back when we used to play CDs in the car. I found that the other day. That was quite funny looking through that. And there was one disc that had nothing on it. It obviously came from a compilation album, but we didn't have the case for it. And of course, Mr. Jem and I, we had to put it on and find out what was on it. And it was just like a kind of best of, but it was disc 3. And you all know what happens when you get to disc 3. It's usually the dregs and the the not very good songs on the album, and we listened to it, and it was actually some quite good songs on it from, I would say, like early 2000s. So I was bopping along, and we were trying to remember who the artist was and one thing and another. It was quite fun. That's one thing that I find Mr. Jem has. I've talked about his movie prowess before. He remembers like dates of when movies came out, like, as if they were yesterday, and he can do it with most films, but he is terrible with music and remembering what year music came out, whereas I'm very good with that. So when we hero news like that, we were like, right, okay, what year did this come out? And then we go and look up. So we had a bit of that going on with that CD as well. It was quite funny. Made me laugh anyway. Right, okay. The other thing that I know I definitely want the colour to be is this filing cabinet, because we used to have a really horrible, it was like a really dirty looking olive green colour. Now I like green, so that's fine, but it was just a filthy rusty old filing cabinet. So I feel like I should pay tribute to that because it was the noisiest thing and the drawers on it always got jammed, and if you locked it you could never get it unlocked again. You know, you had to wrestle with it, you had to fight with it. It was quite funny. Filing cabinets, goodness me. Don't even have one of those anymore. There was a list, and it floated about Facebook for ages, but there was a list of things that supposedly people don't have in their house anymore. And one of these the old-fashioned filing cabinets was one of them. I was trying to remember what the other things were. I'm sure a VHS, you know, like a tape player, like a VHS video player was one of them as well. I don't have one of them either anymore. But there was loads of other things and I was like, yeah, I've still got that. Oh, I know what it was, a paper calendar. I know lots of people that still use a paper calendar. Lots of people. And a Filofax, that was the other one. I don't have a Filofax, but I still use a paper diary. And so does Mr. Jem. So it was quite interesting to read through the list and just be like, oh yeah, you know, and there's things you forget about. Like when we found that CD, we were like, well, what are we going to play it on? Because we don't have a CD player anymore. Haven't had a CD player for years. I ended up putting it in the Xbox. downloading an app on the Xbox to get it going. The other option was to go out to the car because our car still has a CD player in it. We never use it, but it still has a CD player in it. Funny. Make me laugh. Here we are. The other, I remember what the other one was, a telephone book, you know, like a telephone directory. A paper one, I mean. People don't have them anymore either, apparently. How many of you have got a telephone directory? I was thinking about it, I don't even think my gran's got one anymore. I don't, because I'm talking about my grandmother that's all up with her iPad now. I don't even think she's she's got a little notebook with people's numbers in that she's handwritten in herself. She's still got that, I know that for a fact, but I don't think she's actually got like a Yellow Pages or a, you know, a phone directory. I must ask her that. I mean, my new age gran. The other colour that I've been using quite a lot throughout this entire double page is this sort of dark golden yellow colour, light yellow ochre. And I've been using it to colour in the labels on a lot of the books because it's a colour that you can get some depth with, but it doesn't overpower the lettering that's there. So I've been quite enjoying using that to fill in some of these labels. And I've just got my ivory. I was going to say cream there. I've got my ivory just for these pages as well. Thought that'd be quite a good colour to use in there. I think I want this book to be red. You can see how toothy this paper is now. Just the, you know, this is me putting just down like a light layer, and it's pretty toothy, which is why I started using the Zest-it blender. I did have deliberately left some of the texture on some of the books, and it's, you know, it makes it interesting, but there's a definite, if you were to leave the whole picture like this, I think it would look really unfinished. That, of course, is just my opinion. Get this on the go. I can go back in with this other red now. Yeah, I have really enjoyed colouring this page. I think because there's so much variety in it, obviously there's a lot of books, but there's so many other things in the pictures as well. I've just realised there's another pen in there that I didn't see earlier. I'll make this one dark blue. Here we go. Dark blue pen in there. I'm still having trouble grasping the fact that I've nearly finished this picture. I just figured it was one of those pictures that I would never quite get there. I'm going to leave my mouse white. I've decided that the animal mouse. Yeah, I'm just going to leave him white. Been using this rather attractive shade of green. It's a colour I really like, is Hooker's green, and I use it quite a lot. I don't know if I want to do that now though. I think I might go for this. I've used this aqua in here and over here mixed in with another blue colour, but let's make this box file that colour as well, because it's a very pleasant shade of blue. I like it. Lord of the Files. Some of these titles are so good. They are so good. I really like them. Yeah, I think I'll go with that same colour combo again. What was the other? The other pencil I was using was phthalo blue. And this is quite a vibrant sort of in-your-face colour, so I'm very, you know, I use it very sort of gingerly. I'm not really putting an awful lot of effort into this because it doesn't take much for it to pop. So this box file is one of the examples where I won't be smoothing it out with the odourless mineral spirit. I'd quite like to keep that texture in it because it's kind of lined anyway. So we'll just leave it like that. That would be good. And then I'm going to use this dark blue. Get a point on this switch, and this is Prussian blue. Peeking out his little hole. I'll use that to line the... Oops. There we go. I'm going to use this green gold for this label in here as well. This is actually, aside from my greens, this is the pencil that I use most often. This green gold. I use it all the time. It's a colour that I've just sort of, I don't know, I find it very versatile. I'm going to put a little bit of colour behind there. The light's on. Someone's home in the filing cabinet. Yeah, I find the sort of earthy yellows, you know, the brown yellows, I find them very versatile. The question is, what colour do we do this book? I think it's going to have to be red. Or green. Let's make it, no, because then it's going to blend into the leaves. Oh, decisions. Let's go Hooker's green. No, let's not go Hooker's green. I can't make my mind up. Let's make it red. I'm going to go red. I can feel the tension building. I'm nearly finished. After I've finished this, I am going to start my next page in Enchanted Forest. I'm actually behind schedule for finishing the book by the end of the year. I'm like a page behind, so I really feel that I should get cracked on and get started my next page in there, because I do want to finish that book this year. I really, really do. And I think I've only got like eight pages or something before I call them the DDs, the dreaded dragons at the back. There's a big sort of double fold out spread, and I'm going to be there forever. I've decided what I'm going to do with that. I have a coping mechanism for that. And when I get to those dragons, I'm just going to leave the whole book open on my kitchen table, and every time I walk past, I'm going to colour in like another leaf or another scale on the dragon. And I'm just going to do that because I do walk through my kitchen to like other rooms in the house quite a lot. So I figured that would be a good strategy. And maybe I can get Mr. Jem to help me. Maybe he could do one or two on his way past as well. That's how I'm going to handle that. I don't think I could sit for hours at a time with it. And I think it's going to... I've deliberately left the back cover. I haven't coloured the back cover yet because I don't want to finish the book colouring those dragons, because I think it'll leave a... you know, like a not nice memory. Oh, that's not even a proper sentence. You know what I mean though, I don't want to end on a note where I felt as if I've had to toil to get something finished. I want to enjoy it, so that's why I've deliberately left the back cover till last. So the back cover will be the last page that I do, not the dragons, but the dragons are obviously going to be a considerable amount of work. But we shall cross that bridge when we come to it, because I'm not at it yet. I've still got a bit to go before I get there. Chucking pencils about now, good grief. I didn't think I'd been drinking. Right, let's use this yellow for in here. Right, all I've got left to do is this little bottle down here. Now, I'm assuming it's supposed to be ink or some sort of something like that, because it's more sort of stationery stuff here. I think it's ink. So I'll make this green. But these little bottles are usually quite transparent, so I don't really know what to do in terms of colouring that. I'll use a little bit of grey for the lid as well. There we go. Oh my goodness, I think I'm finished. Right, let's have a zoom out and have a look. And there we have it. There is the finished article. That has taken me a long time. Oh, I've got to finish this little guy's gruffalump, that's what I called him. I just need to find the colours. I light magenta and crimson. I'll just blend that out a little bit. It has taken me an awfully long time, but I'm glad it's taken me a long time, because it's been very pleasurable just doing it in little chunks. I'm just going to do a little bit of blending here. This red book, this needs to be blended out for sure. And I think taking that approach to big pictures like this, because I see all the time, especially with newer colourists, and they say, oh, I bought this book and I'm so intimidated by it, blah blah blah, I haven't done anything in it, or I'm too scared to start in it. Break everything down into bite-sized chunks, and this book is great for that, because there's a lot of pages like this that are just in little sections, and you only have to concentrate on one section at a time. And I can say honestly, right now, right this second, it is very satisfying to finish this page. I am satisfied. There we go. That's me. I'm done this time, I promise. So there you go. That is it in all its glory. I hope you like it. If you do, you can always give the video a thumbs up. The next page, I don't know why, this is like screaming out to me to be painted in some sort of water soluble medium. I don't know about bleeding in this book, and there's nowhere for me really to test it out, because they've been very economical with their pages, because that's straight into the first illustration, and the back page is the same. The story finishes here, so there's nowhere really for me to test out something like that. And I don't know if anybody has used water soluble mediums in this book. Please let me know in the comments, because I really want to do it. I might even try a little bit of watercolour paint, and I don't know why, but this page just makes me want to paint things. So yeah, if anybody's got any advice on that, or they've tried it already, please let me know in the comments. That would be awesome, because you guys are wonderful. Anyway, that is us for today, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to come and hang out with me, and I hope you like my finished page. I'm going to parade about the house and go, look, I finished this. We'll see you next time in the cave, guys, and it will be really soon. Bye for now, everyone.